Is it true that Jungkook can't live without Jimin? Why did Taehyung mention this in public? Did the media just justify their long-kept secret emotional connection? Click, read, and comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're surprised by what's revealed. Asterisk, is it true that a friend can be someone's breath? Or even further, an emotional dependence so deep that when one person leaves, the other begins to lose his way? This question arose not from a drama movie or a romance novel, but from the shocking remarks of one of the most famous icons in the K-pop world, Kim Taehyung, or better known as VBTS. What made this statement the center of the whirlpool of excitement was the time, place, and Taehyung's expression when he said it. Not in a casual or clandestine atmosphere, but in an open-ended interview session clearly recorded by the camera. And it's not just any camera, it belongs to a major South Korean media outlet that has long followed BTS movements from debut to military hiatus. When a reporter asked Taehyung about the relationship dynamics between BTS members after some of them started serving in the military, Taehyung initially answered cautiously. However, when Jimin and Jungkook's names were mentioned, the aura on his face changed drastically. He was silent for a moment, sighed, then threw a sentence that shocked the Korean entertainment world and international fandom. For a moment, the room was quiet. No laughter. There is no objection. Instead, Taehyung's gaze remained calm yet sharp, as if to imply that he knew more than he could say. Is this just an emotional trope? Is that a hyperbolic phrase between very close friends? Or is there anything deeper and darker than just the company of two groupmates? South Korean media, which usually chooses to be cautious when touching on issues of emotional relationships between BTS members, made a rare move. In less than 24 hours, 2 television stations and 3 major digital news outlets published a special report on Jungkook's psychological and emotional dynamics towards Jimin. Some even included quotes from HYB's former managerial staff who had already left the agency. Asterisk, Jungkook is always looking for Jimin. Even when he is angry or frustrated because of training or work pressure, the first thing he looks for is always Jimin. If Jimin isn't on site, Jungkook could be really agitated. We called it Code Blue first because it meant we had to find Jimin as soon as possible before Jungkook started losing control. Asterisk, the statement made netizens start reliving many old moments that were previously considered funny or adorable. Old video footage, such as when Jungkook refuses to sleep without knowing where Jimin is, or how he always sits next to Jimin in various press conferences and variety shows, is now being watched again with different glasses. The question now is their relationship just a bromance? Or have we been witnessing for a long time something much deeper, more complex and more fragile than we imagined? Emotions exploded in various fandom forums. Army divided. Some feel this is a rare and heartfelt moment of emotional recognition. But others are beginning to worry that too much attention on this relationship will make the pressure on Jungkook and Jimin even more unmanageable, especially considering that the two have not officially returned to the entertainment world fully after the military hiatus. Even more interesting is the tacit confirmation of one of the famous Japanese outlets close to BTS's activities outside of Korea. They write in his article, asterisk, Jungkook's dependence on Jimin is not new to us. It's just never spoken publicly before. If Taehyung said it out loud, it must mean something shifted inside the group, or perhaps in Jungkook himself. The last phrase of the article, something shifted inside Jungkook himself, asterisk, shook the fan community. What's changed? Is Taehyung warning the world that Jungkook is emotionally vulnerable? Or is it an indirect request for fans to start preparing for an unimaginable possibility? What made things even hotter was when some Army internationals found out that in an old live that has now been deleted, Jimin once said with a nervous laugh, asterisk, if I really leave this world, I think Jungkook will follow. But don't worry, I don't want to die yet. Asterisk, now, the sentence that used to be greeted with light laughter turned into a terrible quote that was discussed all over on various social media platforms. Netizens began to associate it with Jungkook's behavior change at the end of the year before his enlistment, in which he appeared more moody, quieter, and more often aloof. Now, netizens are wondering, is Taehyung trying to convey a message through the media because the internal agency refuses to let the public know the true condition of the emotional relationship between the members? Has HYB covered up the depth of this psychological conflict for the sake of preserving the image of the group? And more importantly, does Jimin himself know how important he is to Jungkook? Because so far, There has been no official response from Jimin's side. He has not commented on Taehyung's remarks. He hasn't written anything on Weverse. Even in a recent limited virtual meeting, Jimin only smiled slightly when Jungkook's name was mentioned, but to meticulous fans, it wasn't a happy smile. Some analysts of Korean pop culture have even suggested that we may be witnessing the beginning of the disclosure of the most personal and emotional dynamic in the history of modern K-pop groups. And if all this is true, then we must be ready. Because love, dependence, loss, and recognition that have been hidden may soon open one by one. What do you think? Is Jungkook really unable to live without Jimin? Did Taehyung accidentally divulge a secret that BTS and HYBE have been closely guarding? Or is this the most human moment ever performed by the biggest K-pop group in the world? Even when Jungkook once sneaked into a rehearsal room late at night just to play guitar with Taehyung, HYBE's security system recorded it as an unscheduled privacy incident, and the report was sent to the management level. They treated him like a threat. Two humans who just want quiet time are considered operational risks. Not because they made a mistake, but because they were too close, too honest, too unpredictable. One former music producer, who asked not to be named, revealed that there was a demo of a song co-written by Taehyung and Jungkook that explicitly described alienation, fear of being restrained, and a sense of loss of identity in the industry. The song was never released. The reason? We cannot market the voice of rebellion. The song is the rawest and most human work they've ever done. But freedom of expression is not a priority. The priority is full control. Even to an artist's heart's content. HYBE's policy of what they refer to as emotional branding containment increasingly resembles structural oppression. Taehyung was reportedly reprimanded for speaking too honestly on a live broadcast, and Jungkook was said to have disappeared for almost 2 days, not appearing in an internal group chat, not answering calls, and only returning after being called directly by senior staff. In a text message to a close friend that has now been leaked to the public, Jungkook wrote, "I want to be myself, but every time I try, they make me feel guilty." Even more shocking is the story of a former private driver who drove them on late-night schedules. He said he heard Jungkook and Taehyung discussing how they felt they had no place to be honest even with the people who were supposed to protect them. "We are just assets, not people," one of them said, according to the driver. And on one particular night, Jungkook reportedly asked to stop at the Han River Bridge, sitting alone on the side of the car for nearly 40 minutes, just staring into the dark of night. Not talking, not crying, just shut up. And when the driver asked, Jungkook replied, "Sometimes I just want to be an ordinary person who can fall without being photographed." In the midst of all this, Taehyung is mentioned several times as wanting to start an independent art project outside of the HYBE system as a form of escape. But according to the leaked contract, every step of his work remains supervised, and he cannot freely collaborate without the company's approval. Even a cover letter for cooperation with an art museum in France that he wrote himself, carefully preserved, was cancelled because HYBE did not agree on the timing. They even regulate when an artist can create. And then came the biggest leak that will probably shake anyone's confidence in the purity of the South Korean entertainment industry. A former internal PR director claims that HYBE hired a public sentiment analysis team to engineer online opinion, subtly shifting public attention away from the topic of Taehyung and Jungkook to conflicts between fandoms, making the army fight each other as a tool to hide larger internal conflicts. When fans attack each other, the company is silent, and in that silence, they won. Even when Jungkook uploaded a cryptic message in a live broadcast that only lasted 6 minutes, his expression was frozen into a meme, but no one dared to lift his emotional context. The broadcast was silenced without a trace by the internal media team, and some fans who tried to save the footage found their videos flagged as copyright infringement within minutes. Meanwhile, Taehyung, who once wrote a personal poem about the tightness behind fame, received a written reprimand because the post was considered at risk of provoking speculation. An internal document revealed that each BTS member upload was evaluated by a minimum of 3 layers of management before being allowed to go public. But mysteriously, posts about brand collaborations or concert ticket promotions can go up in just 5 minutes. Then how is it possible that the expression of the heart of a human being requires more censorship than advertising? The fans who had been defending HYBE began to doubt the family narrative that they had been selling. If it's family, why did Jungkook have to postpone the release of his mixtape for almost 2 years just because the concept was too dark? If it's a family, why would Taehyung have to sign an additional contract amendment just to get permission to release a short film he wrote himself? One insider who was once involved in HYB's legal team mentioned that such ancillary contracts are often used to limit emotional copyright, a term that literally means that the company can reject part of an artist's expression if it deems it does not fit with the collective image of the group. That is, it is not only their work that is restricted, but also their wounds and honesty as individuals. Most astonishing was the testimony of a former security chief who claimed to have received orders to separate Jungkook and Taehyung during a break on an international set. In one incident in New York, the two chose to sit together in a public park after a photo shoot. But in less than 5 minutes, the security officer received a message from the superior via mobile phone. Separate. Too many cameras. Whose camera? Fans were not at the venue. Whose camera are they referring to? Media cameras? Internal camera? Or camera control? An honest emotional connection between them turns into something considered subversive. They are never explicitly forbidden to be close, but whenever they are too comfortable, the world around them moves to separate. From plane schedules, to hotel rooms, to seating positions at press conferences, everything seems strategically arranged so that no interactions are perceived as too deep. Even their habit of playing games together in the rehearsal room was reduced under the pretext of production time efficiency. They are not forbidden to be friends, but to be surrounded by an invisible wall so as never to get close enough to strengthen each other completely. One of the internal video editors who accidentally saved the rejected cuts file found a behind-the-scenes segment from the Busan concert, in which Jungkook hugs Taehyung for quite a while and whispers, "Thank you for staying here." The video never aired. It was never even mentioned in the official documentary content. Why should that part be censored? Because it's too human? The public began to question, is what the industry is most afraid of not scandals, but the artist's own emotional frankness? Is the all is well narrative more important than the reality that 2 of the 7 members may have been holding on to something for too long that can't be spoken freely? If you think this is just an internal drama, you are very wrong. It's a moral question of how industries shape, control, and then use people as symbols without ever asking if they're happy. Jungkook and Taehyung are not just victims of the system. They are symbols of what happens when the truth begins to threaten the image constructs built over years. And now, as the cracks begin to open, the question is, how many more will come crashing down? Kook secretly wrote a song about mental distress. In the original recording described crying sounds as well as heavy breathing. Management ordered the production team to remove all those sounds and replace them with synthetic beats that were more selling. One producer who resigned after the incident said, "It was one of the most honest songs I've ever heard from an idol." But they sterilized that whole emotion out of fear that too many people will feel too close to her. They don't want Jungkook to be human. They want him to be a product. On the other hand, Taehyung reportedly once tried to insert hidden messages in song lyrics and visual concepts that represented a sense of being trapped, but those elements were cut out completely by the creative division. He even had a dispute with one of the creative directors because the lyrics of the song were too personal, deep, and not suitable for a global audience. Surprisingly, lighter and flatter content is actually encouraged to be heavily promoted. A longtime HYB staffer once commented sarcastically, if they could, they would rather Taehyung sing about flowers and rainbows, rather than wounds and honesty. The climax came when leaked internal documents revealed that Taehyung and Jungkook's names were once discussed strategically as 2 individuals with a high risk of wild character formation. That is, they are seen as too dangerous if given complete freedom in determining their career path. Furthermore, they were described as anomalies in the artist's control system. One sentence in the document has now gone viral. Both have an unpredictable emotional impact, and it is a threat to the commercial balance of the group. A sentence that seems to equate sincerity with annoyance. In an internal interview that was never released to the public, Taehyung once said, "I don't want to be known for strategy, but for my soul." The sentence reportedly made some executives uncomfortable because it was considered against the global market mechanism. Even a former director of HYBE anonymously mentioned that such statements can shake the stability of the celebrity system. Since when has honesty become a threat that needs to be neutralized? Even more horrifying, rumors surfaced that management had suggested that Taehyung and Jungkook periodically abstain from direct digital interactions with fans due to indications of an emotional attachment that is too high and difficult to control. It is presented in the internal minutes as image cooling protocol. That strategy requires them to limit unscripted live streaming, avoid spontaneous answers, and reduce private Weverse interactions. Some sensitive soldiers are starting to realize that in a few months, taekook's interactions have indeed drastically decreased. And now many are starting to